And so what was like the next 24 hours after that? Did it cross your mind again and you think about it?
I didn't think about it until the same people who had led me to Christ, because I want to think this was like a Monday.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure, Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
And there used to be fellowships on Saturday and then church on Sunday. And so Saturday, these same two guys come into my room, my dormitory,
Yeah.
and they're like, do you want to come for fellowship? I had no idea that there were even fellowships. That's how separate I was from religious things. And so I'm like, fellowship? And he says, let's go. So we go for my very first fellowship. Imagine, I gave my life to Christ on Monday. My very first fellowship was that Saturday. And so I go for this fellowship, and the speaker of the day has delayed for about 30 minutes. So the leader of the fellowship stands up and asks, is there anyone who has anything to say? And so in my very first fellowship, I stand up and I preach. It was more like motivational speaking, but I felt a fire burning inside of me that I needed to say something. And I remember my first ever sermon was a sermon of a story called the Orange Story.
Wait, you've just got saved, something you didn't know? They invited you to fellowship? Do you even know what you're supposed to say in such a place?
I didn't even know. For me at that time, I used to look at preachers, priests and so on. I didn't see them any different from motivational speakers. It's just that everyone spoke differently.
So what was the story you gave of?
It's a long story, but it's an orange sermon.
Yeah.
I call it the orange sermon, my first ever sermon, about a guy who wanted to prove that there is no God. So he went from city to city to city, proving that there is no God, until finally he comes to this particular city. And as he brings out all his evidence to prove that there is no God, people are moved by his presentation. That's how powerful his presentation was. So he asks at the end of the session, is there anyone who has any objection or any questions to what I've just presented? And there's a man seated in the very corner of the room eating an orange. He's an old man. He's eating an orange and juice is flowing down his beard. And so this man sees him and tells him, come in front and ask your question. So this man walks in front with his orange and asks, do you know how sweet this orange is? This man says, I've been talking about no God, what? Stick within the context.
Yeah.
And this man says, if you don't know how sweet this orange is, and it's physical, how can you know how God tastes yet is invisible?
Okay.
You understand? And so that set the setting. That's my first ever sermon.
Where did you got that from?
I must have read it somewhere.
From like a book?
I must have read it somewhere. All I know, I think it was the only godly kind of story that I knew.
That you do.
And it played a role in that setting.
And how was it received? What was the reaction from the people that day?
I just remember people clapped, wow, and every single Saturday after that.
You always attended?
I was always, not just attending, I was on the pulpit doing something.
So you get saved on Monday, and on Saturday you're preaching?
You're preaching. So I've been preaching since 1999.
Yeah. And so someone leads you to Christ on a Monday, then invites you for fellowship, then you have this fire and you start whatever. Did you continue interacting with them? Did you learn more things from them?
I did, and what most people, by the way, there's a part in my life, because this was my S1. So I'm so caught into spirituality and Christianity and so on and so forth, because it was religious in that it was Christianity, but there was some spirituality to it. So I'm getting caught up with all these events, just like young children could. They start singing, dancing. Then at a particular point, because this was the first term of S1, at a particular point in around the third term, I faded away from them and stopped attending fellowship for about a month or so. And then one day, I'm passing by them. It was a night prep, I'll never forget it. And they're busy in a discussion talking about the return of Jesus in the next few months. I want you to imagine. So I'm passing by, and they're like, you mean everyone's going to be left behind? Rapture. So it intrigued me. And they told me they met every night for that. And so I loved end time stuff, because I had sat with a number of Jehovah's Witnesses, and they also believe in a lot of end time things. And so that's what intrigued me to get back into it. So for about a month or so, I disappeared from this religious
Until
thing.
you got this new, yeah.
And from that day onwards, yeah. And so it's interesting that up to now, I'm the only one of all those, actually we're two were ministers, and the rest just faded away.
So I know that in most schools where there are these fellowships, of course the preaching is there, but most times they bring guest preachers. A lot of the kids are involved in things like music, dancing, and what. Was that a thing at the time? Is it something that you got into?
I went deep into Christian rap and Christian dancing. I started a rap group. It was called
Christian rap?
Haters. It was called Devil Haters. I was the chief rapper.
Yeah.
And there was a guy, a friend of mine who would do reggae. Then there was another rapper who's now a minister. And at that time, I thought to myself, I'm going to become a rapper when when I finish school. I'm definitely going to become a rapper, because by that time, Kirk Franklin, his music was hitting it. And there were other Christian musicians that were coming up at that time. And you'd think, man, this is what I want to do.
And you'd perform only in that school, or you would also
perform in
move?
School. Then, now, here's the interesting thing. So, after school, on one particular holiday, I'm invited to a church of Uganda, to attend a youth setting. And when I attend, I find all this dancing and so on and so forth. I say, okay, this is my church. So that's how I ended up
in
joining
that
a
church.
setting.
Yeah.
So that's when this rap group was formed. And when it was formed, we were big. Some of you people don't know us, but we were big at that time. We had even CDs, songs.
You actually produced music?
We even produced music. Oh dear Lord!
And so so you have that phase in the school, and was the church a place you went to so often, or only when you're on holidays?
No.
To do that.
I actually, after some time, it took me a while, but I became a member of the church. I even ended up being in the youth leadership for the next 16 years. So it played a very vital role in laying a foundation for me as a future minister, because the church I was in was word-based.
And so before we get into that, so you get saved in school, you're doing all these sorts of ministry-related, dancing, singing, but this is at teenage years, and in a mixed international school. There are these hot girls. How did that play? How did you balance that? Didn't you feel like there was a competition for the fun part?
When I was in school, I was quite a loner. I was a loner in the sense that I was hard to be understood. The things that I found interesting at that age, many of my compatriots were thinking other things. So people were thinking about dating and so on and so forth. The things that drove my desires were the unknown. I used to like to look at stars, end time things, mysteries. Those were things that would take most of my time. So throughout school, I was never really involved in dating and most of those things.
Nothing, and it didn't cross your mind that,
yeah, it might have, but it
wasn't
didn't stay there too long, because most of the friends that I had fell in the same category as I was in. So, yeah, not so much.
So you finished school in this one international school, or you went elsewhere at some point?
4 years at this international school, then there was a transition to a government school. Now, you've been eating chips,
sausages, burgers.
Then you switch to beans and
posho
and katogo. And I remember the first day I joined the government school that I later attended. The lady, there's a teacher who asked me, what school are you from? And I tell her the international school. Then she asks me, the first thing she says is, are you going to survive?
Survive?
You won't survive in this government school. And well, now that I'm here, I actually survived.